anything can be successful in real estate with regards to marketing. Anything. Please hear that. Anything you do can be successful as long as you're consistent with it, as long as you don't differ from it. When I say consistent, I mean, do it every single day. When I first started, I was writing letters every single day. I was checking the county in every single day, like clockwork. That was the first thing I did every morning, was get those letters out. Why? Because that's my lead gen. That was my lead gen at the time. So anything works as long as you're consistent with it.
All right. So here today we have Ryan and Jim. I am super, super excited to interview them. Some of you guys know Ryan and Jim have done over 2,000 deals in the last 13 years. And they've averaged, some years they've had well over 100 deals. So what I want to really get into, and the purpose of today's episode, is how did they get deals early on? How did they acquire so many leads to do so many deals? And what that journey was like, and what it was, from the beginning where a lot of you guys are at. How did they go from doing 1-3 deals all the way up to doing 500 plus deals a year? So I would say, Ryan, let's start it off with you. Tell us about some of the early days. How did you get into real estate, and what was that like?
Yeah, so I got right into real estate out of college and jumped right into short sales. So this was back in 2006, before the crash happened. And luckily I got my my experience in short sales right away. I also got into short sales before they were super common. Most realtors by the time 2008, 2009 had hit, they were at least had experienced 1 or 2 deals within short sales because they were so prevalent back then. So I had about a year and a half head start before they became really popular. And being a young person at that time in an industry that is difficult to get into as being a young person, short sales was a really good niche because the people that I was helping out effectively had no other alternative. They had to sell, and it wasn't like many people were barking down their door to buy their home because they had no equity. So it was a really good niche for me to get into, given my age and experience.
What would you say, how did you originally start to find short sales? I mean, it was kind of, were people coming to you back then, or what was the process for that?
Yeah, so I got mentored by someone. I'm big into mentorship. The way that I worked it out with this particular guy, his name's Glenn. I effectively followed him in his car for a few days. He gave me a CD. I listened to the CD. This is pre-podcast and all that stuff. And there's someone who was an expert that was kind of explaining short sales. So I listened to the CD. He gave me a couple documents that helped. And I utilized what's called the County here in St. Louis, which is the legal paper. They document all of the foreclosure notices. That's in the state of Missouri. You have 21 days that it has to be published, those foreclosure notices. So I scoured that paper, and I was literally handwriting out letters to those people and hand addressing them, every single day, and getting leads that way. That was my exposure into, or my initial entrance into short sales.
I love it.
Handwriting letters.
I love it so much because so many people, and Jim and I have talked about this off air a lot. So many people think as soon as they start into real estate, they have to go pump a ton of money into getting leads, a ton of money into marketing. And literally, Ryan just told you that he was handwriting letters for probably 3-4 hours a day. Some days, I bet.
Yeah, no, I mean, the letters I wasn't handwriting. I'm sorry. I was printing the letters, but I was handwriting the return address. I was handwriting, their address on the envelopes. So I was handwriting those. And yeah, I mean, it would take several hours to write all of those, to print them all out. So every single week it was a process. I was, grinding and just continuing to send out letters and hoping someone would call. And they did, again, because it was a really good niche. People needed to sell, and there wasn't a whole lot of people who were knocking at their door back then.
Yep. And there's still tons of niches out there, guys. What I want to highlight there real quick is you don't have to be massively marketing based. You can be prospecting based and get leads effectively. There's still ways today in the market we're in to get leads by prospecting and not spending a ton on marketing. Okay, Jim, let's jump over to you. So you jumped in around 2010, 2011, right? So Ryan's full-blown wholesaler, having a heyday with all the short sales, I imagine, with the financial crisis. what got you geared towards real estate? What meant sent you into the direction of real estate?
So, 2008, actually, a couple of years before was my first kind of like deal. And I started researching it at the beginning of the year. So in spring, Ryan and I started coaching high school baseball together. And he was doing this, making good money. He was able to coach baseball. And I had been pouring into investment books, like studying, like not just real estate, but financial, like the stock market stuff, Warren Buffett books, and just searching for something because I knew the corporate America job that I got that I had after college just wasn't the right fit for me. So I was searching for something. The one saving grace at my corporate America job was it allowed me to have flex time, and I was able to work from 6 a.m. to 2:30 and then go coach high school baseball. And so I was miserable from 6 to 2:30, and then I'd coach high school baseball. And I got a little jealous of Ryan. Here was Ryan able to do the same thing I was doing. He was able to coach high school baseball, and yet he wasn't kind of at the corporate America thing. He was able to like be doing real estate and having fun do it. So I started to kind of research real estate, and I kind of got to a point where I was like, well, if Ryan's doing it, like, why can't I? I got a little bit jealous of it. And so then I started kind of getting more serious about real estate investing then at that point.
Gotcha. So you were separate. You guys weren't business partners for a couple, 2-3 years, correct?
Did we officially become partners in 2010 or 2011, Ryan?
2011.
2011. Okay. Yeah. So we're separated for 3 years, both kind of doing real estate. What would you say, how did you guys end up coming together as a partnership? When do you guys want to walk us through that? What was that process like? And how did you guys decide to become business partners to start building this empire?
I normally answer this one first, but go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to let you go. You had just talked. So Jim likes to say that, he added a tremendous amount of value from that 2008 to 2011 and effectively made up my mind. The 28 to 2011, we were continuing to coach baseball. Jim's first deal or two, I think it might have been his first two deals. I wholesaled them deals, wholesale and short sales. So I was doing the short sales and I wholesaled them some of the deals that we were able to buy. And the market was shifting from 2008 to 2011. The crash was occurring. The market was a bit in flux. It was a unique time. Hopefully one that we don't have again anytime soon for the vast majority. However, most real estate investors would tell you that they'd love to see another crash. So it was a unique time. I loved being a part of it, and we were super fortunate in that we were early on in our career and weren't greatly affected by it in the sense of losing a tremendous amount on deals. So the market shifting created some changes within short sales. So just from a real quick perspective on what I was doing pre and what was going on, there was almost no restrictions on short sales in 2006, 2007. It was like the wild, wild west is a great way to explain it. I, as the buyer, could call the bank, the lender, the service provider on behalf of myself, the buyer, and the seller and negotiate the deal. Most banks they didn't care. They wanted to sell these assets before they foreclosed because it was better for them. Well, 2008, 2009 created a massive shift within short sales. So our business was shifting. My business was shifting. Jim's business was shifting. He was trying to get into it. I was trying to shift as this was occurring. There's a lot more restrictions in that we had to start being an arm's length transaction within short sales. You could no longer represent the seller as the buyer and just negotiate directly with the bank. They required that it be listed. They required this. They required that. So there was a lot of different factors during that time. And with such a market shift that we were having, it was a good time to be able to be flexible, which we had to be and were. And Jim just continued to work with me. And we continued to talk. We talked almost daily about this or about that, or, maybe it was doing a deal. Maybe it was just, hey, what do we do here? He continued to ask me and I would bounce some things off him. So it was a 3 year, we were shifting with the market. We were creating a better relationship, and we were somewhat creating some deals together to the point where we felt comfortable in having a partnership.
And what's interesting looking back at it is I did one deal in my first year, and that deal I made enough money that I had a different business partner on because I was really afraid of like the risk and losing money, because it felt like if I had one loss, I'm really blessed. I come from a middle-class family that my grandparents and parents were able to pay for my college education. So I come, I was in a position that's more fortunate than most, I think. But I also was started out as a zero. I didn't like no one gave me any money or anything like that either. And so I was really so afraid of like, okay, if I lose 10 grand, I lose 20 grand, 30 grand on a deal, my dream's over and I'm going to be stuck in corporate America the rest of my life. So as I was studying and doing things, like there's a lot of fear. I studied book after book on how to work with contractors, you name it, different online programs on lead generation, the whole gamut. And when I look back at it, that first year, the most important thing that I did that I had no idea that I was really even doing was I developed a relationship with Ryan. Like literally, I could have not spent any time studying any of that stuff, just developed a relationship with Ryan. He wholesaled me that first deal that I made the money on, that I was able to quit and get in full time, So it was like that fear crippled me to where I wasn't able to like get into action mode. And kind of for me, what that breakthrough was, and Ryan really just said it too. Ryan had a mentor as well, was getting around the right person to like help guide you along the process and the right environment with the right people. So then, I mean, my mindset was like I have a lot of things I can do really well. I have shortcomings in my skill set. There's things that I quite frankly do not do well. So I had an awareness of myself that I needed people around me, and I liked Ryan's. Ryan can be kind of a bulldog, and I liked the good cop, bad cop dynamic that we can do at times. I was deathly afraid of conflict, like when I was younger. I can handle it very well now. It's a skill that I've learned, but I had kind of some issues. So I thought, well, if I partner up with Ryan, he's not afraid of conflict, so he can have any sort of tough conversation we need to have with a contractor or whatever. And my thing on it was, Ryan, hey, you can do deals on your own. I'm not going to take away anything that you've been doing for the first couple of years since before I came along, but I'm going to make you money. And I partnered on, I think I might have done an agent deal because I did get my real estate license here or there. That Ryan wasn't necessarily making any money on, but the vast majority of the investment deals I did, I partnered with Ryan on. And it took me 3 years to sucker him into a partnership.
I really I like where you went with that, because all too often I feel like people, when they start in real estate, immediately are like, I need a business partner. You don't need a business partner. You need someone to joint venture deals with, or a mentor or a group. But signing a contract, a legal binding contract with a lawyer that you're going to partner with someone that you've never done a real estate transaction with in your life, I think is a really, really bad idea. And I like that. That's kind of how you guys formed your relationship, because every new 20-year-old investor that talks to me, they're like, I want to go find a business partner. And I'm like, I just don't think that's the right path for people to go.
Well, and so the other thing that we got lucky on was that we had been friends since high school. We went to high school together, and our skill sets have synergy. There's things that Ryan's good at. There's some things that we're actually both good at, but there's certain things that Ryan, like in his unique genius zone, I'm not that strong at, and vice versa. There's things that I'm strong at that he's not as strong at. And I think too often when it comes to partnerships, people, they find someone that's just like them, because like the ultimate rapport that we have with people, guys, is when someone has a lot in common with you. If you think about your friends, you think about the people that you like the most. Oh man, this guy likes golf. I love golf. This guy likes fishing. I love fishing. And like you kind of develop that commonality and that bond. But when it comes to business partnerships, yes, rapport is very important, but there also has to be 1 + 1 needs to equal 3. Like if Ryan and I were the exact same person it would have flopped. It would have been the world's worst partnership. Two Jim Mannings does not get us to 2,000 deals in 13 years. Ryan, quite frankly, whooped my butt starting out as an investor. He was doing a lot more deals than I was, but look at his actions and look at mine. I thought I had to know everything first before I got into action mode. So I spent a year studying. And what did Ryan do every week? He wrote letters.
And sometimes consistency will outbeat studying and knowing everything by so much.
Yeah, it's your actions, guys. I mean,
actions and habits.
That's what it is. Yeah. So he was able to start developing skills in the real world, talking to homeowners, negotiating these deals, and he was able to get into action mode. So it took me a long time to kind of realize that everything I had been taught growing up about sitting in a classroom, learning from a teacher, absorbing it in the real world, like that's just information. True knowledge, true understanding only comes from doing things and gaining experiences and learning things through those experiences.
I'll give you guys an overview of my knowledge and what I've picked up over the years. Anything can be successful in real estate with regards to marketing. Anything. Please hear that. Anything you do can be successful as long as you're consistent with it, as long as you don't differ from it. When I say consistent, I mean, do it every single day. When I first started, I was writing letters every single day. I was checking the county in every single day, like clockwork. That was the first thing I did every morning, was get those letters out. Why? Because that's my lead gen. That was my lead gen at the time. So anything works as long as you're consistent with it. That includes spending $100 a month, or we've spent as much as $35,000 a month, right? And anywhere in between, you can have success. Stay consistent with whatever you're doing. If you don't give it enough time, if you shift too quickly, you might not have the results you want. So what do I mean by that? Well, any kind of a marketing campaign, you really should go into it knowing that you're going to spend 90, maybe 120 days doing it. If you don't give 90 days minimum, you really haven't allowed yourself enough data to look back and see if it's successful. And even 90 days may be too short, depending on what it is you're doing. My last big tip, and I know this wasn't what you asked, Caleb, but again, I don't like marketing, so I'm going to give you generalities. My last big tip is pick a niche. The riches are in the niches.
Riches are in the niches.
And it's absolutely true. When I was niche based on short sales, I was hyper focused on just doing short sales. I really didn't focus on many other things other than short sales. That was my area of expertise. It was great for me to get in the market. That way, I was a short sale expert. That's it. To niche yourself into one particular market, you will have a great deal more success than if you try to say, I am a real estate investor. I'm going after everything. Great. You're going to be just mind blown by the amount of options there are. And if you're an entrepreneur or have that mindset, you're going to have SOS, shiny object syndrome, really quick.
Well, Ryan said is so critical, guys. And it's the first step that I think a lot of people miss is getting clarity on what the deal that you want is. Like if you search for everything, how are you going to find, you're going to find nothing, because everything doesn't exist, guys. So like specific deals and specific properties and specific niches that actually exist. Entrepreneurial focus. So like one of my things that I play in can I outsource this task? Can I bring somebody else in to do this so I can kind of do something that will move the needle at a bigger level for the company and get a higher return on investment of my time, because my time is the most important thing. It's not the spending money. And the first huge, massive mistake that we made was I outsourced that initial phone call. And we made the decision to outsource that initial phone call to someone in the Philippines. Okay. And then all of a sudden this pay-per-click thing wasn't working out. We're starting to lose money on it. Like, what do we do? And we pivoted away from, at that time, we pivoted away from pay-per-click for a little bit. And looking back at it, The suggestion I make for y'all is pick up the phone call. If you're spending money on a lead, you yourself, you pick it up. Do not outsource that. I know it's a pain if someone calls you at 6 o'clock. I get it. But there's not going to be one person you can outsource it to that's going to, if you're paying for the lead, that's going to take as high care of that lead and take it as seriously as you. Okay. So we have a team member that does this, right? So it is outsourced on our team, but that was a substantial drawback. And really, when it comes to picking up marketing leads, 400% conversion increase. You are more likely to get a sale and get a kind of quote unquote deal if you pick up the call or return the phone call within 2 minutes. Because, and that's one of the drawbacks with pay-per-click, right? They can click on your ad and then guess there's 10 other ads right there on the main page. When someone searches sell my house fast, and they'll just, if you don't pick up that phone, they're going to go ahead and they're going to call your competitor, and then they're going to work with him.